How do the swollen feet of an African man save Scotland from destruction? The year is 145 AD, and a new baby arrives in what is now Libya. His name is Septimius Severus. Born in an obscure part of the Roman Empire to parents of no political importance, he is destined to be forgotten. But if you care about bagpipes, iron brew, haggis and the Loch Ness Monster, this is a weirdly consequential moment, because little Septimius, despite humble beginnings, is about to embark on an unparalleled career as a Scotland hater. Few details survive about his early life. The one story I could find describes how the only game he would play with the other kids was Judge, which involved him handing down his verdict on his playground peers. It's from a famously sketchy biography, the Historia Augusta, so it's almost certainly false, but then it's so on brand I can't rule it out entirely. The first bona fide sign of trouble, however, comes when our teenage troublemaker crosses the Mediterranean and heads for Rome. For those of you keeping track, that's 600 miles closer to the Scottish border. And if you're not nervous yet, young Septimius is starting to show an interest in politics. He starts climbing the cursus honorum, the traditional career path for ambitious young men seeking power in Rome, and he's already got his eyes on the top job. The Historia Augusta describes him showing up at an imperial feast in the wrong clothes, so he has to borrow one of the emperor's togas. He then helps himself to the emperor's seat when a servant leaves it unattended. Remarkably, Severus is not actually the most annoying visitor to Rome at this time. That distinction goes to the Antonine plague, which is mercilessly killing off the people of the imperial city. So Severus makes the sanitary decision to wait out the sickness back in Africa. You know how it is. Go back to mum with a suitcase full of dirty laundry and enjoy some home cooking for a bit. All young people do it. When he returns to Rome, his clothes are washed and pressed, and his competition for the good jobs are dead. And so he climbs even higher up the career ladder. Then comes his big break. He's appointed governor of Pannonia. That's another 300 miles closer to Scotland, if you were wondering. Plus, now he has an army at his back. A battle-hardened one. This is the frontier between the Roman world and the barbarian wilderness, spanning parts of modern-day Hungary, Austria and the Balkans. The soldiers here are no strangers to hostile tribes. They know which end of the sword is the pointy bit. Then the Emperor Commodus dies. You'll probably know him as the Emperor played by Joaquin Phoenix in the film Gladiator. And just like his on-screen equivalent, he's considered a big step down from his dad. His contemporary, the historian Cassius Dio, says he presides over the descent of the Roman Empire from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust. And he really does compete in gladiatorial combat in the Colosseum. Dio describes how he gathers a group of people who have no feet, has them tethered together in the arena, and clubs them to death while pretending they're giants. But he isn't really killed by Russell Crowe, he's killed by a wrestler. Isn't that nuts? Imagine the most powerful man in the world was finished off by Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think of all the exotic ways a wrestler could assassinate someone. They could throw them off the top of the Hell in the Cell, bury them alive, blow up their limo, hurl them into exploding barbed wire. But no, he strangles Commodus in the bath. Lame. This happens on New Year's Eve 192. Spoiler alert, 193 is the year of the 5 emperors. We are in for some chaos. Now, besides Emperor, the top job you can hold in the Roman world is that of Consul. Pertinax, who's in the job when Commodus is killed, is proclaimed the new emperor. And when the throne changes hands, it's customary for the incoming boss to pay a donativum to the Praetorian Guard. Think of it as a Christmas bonus, or if you prefer, a squalid little bribe. These were meant to be the elite of the Roman forces, bodyguards of the emperor. But they're none too happy with their payoff, and 87 days into Pertinax's reign, 200 of them storm the palace. He bravely confronts them, and according to one account, the soldiers on seeing him are at first abashed, all save one, and keep their eyes on the ground. But that last man attacks, and soon they're all gallantly hacking Pertinax to death. He was, according to Dio, an excellent and upright man, who earnestly tried to clean up the mess that Commodus had left him. As thanks, his own guards parade about with his severed head on a spear. If I were to write a parody of a failed state, I would struggle to come up with a more over-the-top example of corruption than what happens next. The Praetorian Guard, not wanting to risk another good man getting the top job, literally hold an auction to decide the next emperor. One senator is already in the Praetorian camp, trying to negotiate a sufficiently large bribe for their endorsement, when another senator shows up at the gate with the same idea. Soon guards are going back and forth between the two bidders, telling each what the competition is offering and challenging them to beat it. In the end, the man at the gate gets it. Didius Julianus offers 25,000 sesterces for each soldier. This is literally years' worth of pay. He's proclaimed the new emperor. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this proclamation is not universally accepted. Across the empire, different emperors are proclaimed by different legions. Pescennius Niger is elevated by his troops in Syria, Clodius Albinius by his troops in Britain, and, you guessed it, plucky little Severus by his troops in Pannonia. So, Let's raise a glass. Not to their health, obviously. We've now got 4 emperors and that sounds like a bloodbath all day long. But we can steel ourselves for the slaughter, can't we? Now, the great thing about having an episode that comes to Scotland is that you're absolutely spoiled for choice when it comes to whisky. Literally any Scotch will make a perfect tie-in. So I've picked an Irish whisky, just to be a dick really. This is Jameson's Triple Triple, named because it's triple distilled and then aged in 3 different types of cask. In my case, it's aged in bourbon, sherry and chestnut casks. As you can see, we're already very well acquainted. Cheers. Nice. It's Jameson's but with a little extra. Some tasting notes I downloaded said that it brings chocolate and espresso notes to the mix, but without a head-to-head, I don't know. I know I like it though. If you'd like to get yourself a bottle, the link is down in the description. Affiliate links earn a commission to support the channel at no extra cost to yourself. So, we have a new emperor in Rome. Which of the other 3 can challenge him? Crucially, Severus is the closest. He steams off to the capital with his legions at his back. Didius Julianus frantically tries to prepare for the coming fight. He has a rampart built in the Roman suburbs and drills his forces, yet the corruption of the Praetorian Guard has made them soft. According to one account, they did nothing worthy of their name and promise, but they had learned to live delicately. Even the war elephants can't be asked. It's said that they throw off their drivers. Julianus sends out men to block or bargain with Severus, but they switch sides. Severus also writes the Praetorian Guard, promising them that no harm will come to them if they surrender the men who killed Pertinax and pledge to keep the peace. Ultimately, Rome is taken without a fight. The Senate sentences Julianus to death, and like Pertinax, he's killed in his own palace, pleading with his executioners, "But what have I done? Whom have I killed?" Severus dismisses the Praetorian Guard, replacing them with his own men, and banishes them from the city on pain of death. Then he addresses the Senate and promises he won't kill any of them. I don't know about you, but this seems a terrifyingly specific reassurance, like entering a room and declaring to all present that you don't have diarrhea, so no need to worry about the upholstery. Everyone was assuming that to be the case when you walked in, but now that you've said it, we're all a little nervous. My "I promise I won't kill any senators" t-shirt is raising a lot of questions already answered by my "I promise I won't kill any senators" t-shirt. So now Severus is in charge of Rome, but still 2 rival claimants to the throne remain. He buys off Albinus, his competition in Britain, by proclaiming him Caesar, a sort of deputy emperor and implied successor. Then he turns his full strength on Niger, his rival in Syria. The 2 sides meet at a natural bottleneck in what is now southern Turkey. Dio describes how the battlefield is hemmed in by precipitous mountains, an impenetrable forest, and high cliffs descending to the sea. Each side arrays their forces with heavy infantry up front and ranged infantry behind, but Niger holds the higher ground. The Severan cavalry are urged to try to find a way through the dense woods to flank the enemy. Then battle begins. The 2 sides are well matched, but by degrees the tide turns against Severus. Defeat is upon him when the weather changes, the sky darkens, and a violent rainstorm erupts overhead. Flashes of thunder and lightning illuminate the battlefield. Niger's troops, facing this maelstrom in the heavens, start to fear that God is against them. The Severan forces, who are facing away from the storm, feel like they have divine favour. Niger's men start to peel away, but who's that coming out of the trees? The cavalry have found a way through. Niger's army is crushed. 20,000 lay dead. The rival emperor is beheaded. Now, Severus declares his son Caracalla as his successor. Albinus, realising that he no longer has any hope of inheriting the throne, marches off to war. The 2 sides clash at Lugdunum, today Lyon in France. Hold on to your kilts, by the way, because we're also several hundred miles closer to Scotland. What follows is the largest Roman-on-Roman battle in history. For 2 days, 150,000 men fight to decide the future of the empire. This at a time when battles rarely outlasted a few hours. But once again, the Severan cavalry prove decisive, and Albinus is defeated. According to the Historia Augusta, Severus beheads his dead rival, tramples his body with his horse, and kills his entire family. Severus is now the undisputed emperor and the first African to rise to the top of the Roman world. But can you rise to the top of our leaderboard? Because I'm launching a new history quiz. Every week, 10 questions will land in your inbox, ready to test your knowledge of times past. The scores will be totted up, and the wisest will be ranked. Jesus Christ. The scores will be totted up, and the wisest will be ranked on the leaderboard. Join our free mailing list dispatches to take part. It also features more trivia, book reviews, guest columns, and more. A sign-up link is down in the description. And before we enter our final chapter, please consider subscribing to the channel, dropping a like on this video, and commenting to say, what would be your first proclamation as Roman Emperor? That's the question Severus now faces. A terrible price has been paid to put him in power. Dio writes that blood flowed in streams, and that many, even of the victors, deplored the disaster. Severus, for his part, celebrates by executing 29 senators. Hey, why break a promise when you can smash it to smithereens? How then to describe the 18-year reign of Septimius Severus? Two things stand out: his lavish generosity towards the soldiers and his murderous paranoia towards the senators. Yes, those 29 aren't the last. Dio gives us a flavour of the sort of thing that gets you killed. A governor in one of the Empire's Asian provinces is condemned to death because someone in his household dreams that he is the emperor. That's right, it wasn't even his dream, but the governor is accused of bringing it about with magic. And it gets sillier. When someone is tortured and forced to reveal who else knew about the dream, they vaguely allude to a bald-headed senator. Next thing you know, every man in the Senate is scrutinising his own hairline and everybody else's in a desperate bid to avoid the emperor's wrath. The historian Dio writes, "I was so disconcerted that I actually felt with my hand to see whether I had any hair on my head, and we were very careful to direct our gaze upon those who were more or less bald, as if we should thereby divert our danger upon them." You don't even have to be against Severus to provoke his bloodlust. To be perceived to be against him is enough. Perhaps that's why he ends up with such a genocidal hatred of Scotland. During his reign, Severus pushes the Roman frontier further south into Africa and further east into Mesopotamia, but he struggles to push the limits of the empire further north into Scotland, or Caledonia as it was then called. Up there, they really are resisting him. This time, at least, it's not just his imagination. He first turns on Scotland almost by default. His troops are getting fat, his insane children are bored, most of Britain is already under his thumb. Why not take the rest? The Scots, Dio says, inhabit wild and waterless mountains and desolate and swampy plains. They dwell in tents, naked, and share their women with each other. They can endure hunger and cold and any kind of hardship, he writes, for they plunge into the swamps and exist there for many days with only their heads above water. I wonder at this point if he's mistaken Scots for hippos. Advancing beyond the Antonine Wall and into this wilderness, Severus and his armies face countless hardships, yet fight no battles and behold no enemy. Instead, and I quote, "The enemy purposely put sheep and cattle in front of the soldiers for them to seize, in order that they might be lured on still further until they were worn out. Only once they are exhausted are they attacked." Tens of thousands die in this way, according to a contemporary account. Severus himself, meanwhile, is growing old and infirm. He is afflicted with terrible gout and has to be carried across the length of the country in a litter. And when peace talks are finally agreed, the emperor's own son moves to kill him, in full view of the enemy. He only backs off at the last moment when someone shouts a warning. The peace doesn't last either. The Scots are soon in open revolt against the Roman occupiers. Now Severus is really pissed. He orders a fresh invasion with the following directive: "Let no one escape sheer destruction, not even the babe in the womb." This is unhinged, obviously, but what makes Severus such a world-class hater is that he demands to see it in person. This is a man who can barely place one foot in front of the other. By now, gout has left his feet grossly swollen and painful, and he wants to lead an army deep into the Scottish wilderness so he can personally observe the slaughter of its inhabitants. He's not usually reluctant to delegate. He wasn't even there for the Battle of Issus, that decisive final clash with Niger. He trusted his generals, but he wants to oversee the massacre of Scotland personally. For this, he will once more compel his weary troops to carry his ageing frame hundreds of miles into the Highlands. And he knows he will die in the process. Dio describes how he knew that he should not return from Britain, yet he nonetheless resolves to go. This is a man personally offended by the existence of Scotland, and in the end it kills him. Too sick to continue, he withdraws to Eboracum, today York in England, and it's there that he dies. His last words to his children: "I love you, and I'm so proud of the men you've become." Yeah, right. He says, enrich the soldiers and scorn all other men. Very on brand. Caracalla tries to continue the fight, but his heart's not in it. Scotland, he's just not that into you. He quits the country and the Romans withdraw to the south. From the Antonine Wall to Hadrian's Wall, there is never another serious Roman attempt to subdue Scotland. The long-term impacts of this are incalculable. The rest of Britain is built on Roman foundations. Not so much Scotland. Celtic culture survives there in a way that it doesn't further south. The very name of the place comes from the Roman name for the Gaels, the Scotti. What if Severus hadn't been so badly afflicted with gout? What if he could have seen through his murderous campaign to its conclusion? Would there even be a border to mark the frontier between England and Scotland? I'll leave these questions for you to ponder. Until then, sláinte.